Well, good morning. Good morning, Tomas.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are things out in the great northern wilderness?
In January we were 55 below, and in July we've been up with heat indices around 110. So I
Wow.
always said that really don't like boring weather, which Portland was pretty much boring weather. Weather is not boring out here in Minneapolis.
You've got the extremes there, but then again, you're extreme. So
I am an extreme junkie here, so
yes,
yeah.
that's right. Well, it's great to be back for another Office 365 productivity tips, the July Jostle.
I love that word. That was a
Yes,
good one.
it is a cool word. It's as I showed earlier. It's like I actually use it in my regular speech. But yeah, this is our almost monthly. We're getting better, So yeah.
We are.
But this is our 15th recording here, where Tom and I will share some of our favorite productivity tips, personal and team-based productivity. If I can forward my slide here. For those that don't know me, my name is Christian Buckley. I'm the founder of CollabTalk LLC. I'm based out of Salt Lake City. I am now an 8-time, for 9 years now, Microsoft MVP and Office Apps and Services MVP, and also Microsoft Regional Director. Nobody knows what that is, but that's all right. But you can find me blogging out on buckleyplanet.com and, of course, out in the CollabTalk YouTube page, which I hope everyone will subscribe to. And Tom, introduce yourself.
I'm the eye candy of this particular duo. I am a software engineer at a company called Cambia Health Solutions based out of Portland, Oregon. Although I do live in Minneapolis, as I just mentioned. I do software engineering and administration for the Office 365 environment. And the URL that you see there is where I post my Office productivity tips for consumption from the wide world.
The whole wide world. Everyone can get it there. Translated into 87 different languages. I didn't know that. That's incredible, Tom.
I have 2 hours every night that I don't need to sleep, so I just
all 87 languages are English, of course. So it's just different dialects, different accents of English.
Northern, Southern,
that's right.
Western, Eastern.
Exactly. So the current leaderboards, because we do keep track, there's all the totals there. This is based on your voting. So throughout, you will have a chance to vote on each one of them. And as we try to do, as we go through, is keep the stats, and we track these over time so we can log it over each other. How are we doing on that right now, Tom?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks pretty good to
me. I remember when I used to hold all the records for, but.
Yeah, you'll be back. It'll happen.
Maybe.
This is meant to see this turnover. So. Well, what are the rules of engagement? So very quickly, so we do take turns. So we're going to share 10 tips over 5 rounds. So we don't know what the other person is going to present. That's part of the magic of this model.
It's the tightrope that we walk.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there are no duplicates. Now, historically, there have been what? How many times?
1 for you and 1 for me.
Yeah, two times we've duplicated this. So what happens if there's a duplicate is that person, if we erroneously share something that's been shared before, 0 points at the end of all this. They lose that round automatically. But we also then go back, and as part of the recording, we go and we add something. We want to make sure that every one of these, there are 10 crisp, clean, new tips. So no dupes. And then the audience votes after each round. Now you're going to have odds and ends. Like it might be that Tom shares something that's Microsoft Teams, and I might share a OneNote. It's an apples versus oranges. So when you vote, it's just based on which one do you think you personally will get more value out of at this time.
It's all about the fruit salad.
It is. Because it's all fruit salad. We're all fruits. As I say, no hitting below the belt, and Tom always says,
I'm short. I always hit below the belt.
That's right. So it's always kind of fun. We'll give each other a hard time, but whoever's meaner, I think it's consistently whoever's been meaner has lost. I think it's true. We'll see if that's still true today.
Oh, I may have to rethink my approach here if that is true.
Humility goes a long way, Thomas. I'm just saying.
Don't give me this, the meek will inherit the world.
I know this is who's talking. I know. Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into it. Let's get started. All right. Round one. All right. So this is one that is, it shouldn't be new. It's been out there for a while. We've actually talked about pinning a document, a file within applications. It's been mentioned within other tips that we have shared, but we've never focused on it. How do I know this? Because we keep a tracking spreadsheet that we've ever shared, because neither of us wants to make that mistake of sharing something we've previously shared.
I would so love to throw the challenge flag, though.
Well, would you like to look at the list?
No, I trust you on this one.
I mean, yeah. So I was surprised too, because we've talked about aspects of this, but not about the feature. Right. So it's a simple but powerful tip. So it's when you're working like we all do on multiple artifacts, whether it's Word documents or PowerPoint files or Excel spreadsheets or whatever that is, the ability to go in there and pin the most active documents that you're working on. Because what happens is that you close down a document, you go open up another one that's shared out in OneDrive somewhere else, and then where was I working on that? Where was that thing? And so that's why Microsoft created this AI-powered recent documents. So it's keeping track already. And you see below in the image there, last week and older files that are being worked on. But the ones that I want to keep top of mind, maybe I'm not going to work on it for 2 weeks while I'm waiting for Tom to come back from his luxury cruise, and he's not able to meet with me on this important document. But I can pin that and quickly come back to that within Word. And so what's nice about that, you just float over that last file, you see the sideways pin there, you click on that pin, and it moves it up to the top. What's cool about this too is that you also have the ability to pin the most commonly accessed folders. So I'm constantly going back to those 3 that you see, 2 of my clients and other proposals that I'm working on. I always want, if I'm opening up Word, I'm generally working in one of the 3 of those folders. And so it makes it really quick way to access those files. And of course, that experience is consistent across the other Office applications.
I like that tip. That is, I use the folder one quite frequently because there's something that I do each month with about 8 different areas, and I have a spreadsheet associated with each area each month, and I like to keep them all in a single folder just for historical purposes. So rather than have to go out and dig through 3 or 4 or 5 different clicks to get out to wherever I've got that stored in OneDrive, I can just go, and I have pinned that folder out there. So when I have one of those spreadsheets and I've completed it and I want to save it, I just basically go, hey, where do I want to save it as? Click that folder. I'm right where it needs to be, and I can just click OK, and everything's saved. So it's a great time saver.
And one of the things, if you remember, those of us that were Windows Phone users a few years back, ran using their Windows Phone just like 6 months ago. It finally died. But one of my favorite things was that pinning capability within, like, right there in the Windows. And whether it was like for the traveling that I do, all my travel documents or my itinerary or other files that I want just to have quick access to within my phone. And so pinning that right to the screen, you can do that within Windows, right within the start menu as well, pin items to it. And people started asking, it's like, well, I want to be able to pin things elsewhere within the applications. And then boom, we get those capabilities across all of the various workloads.
So were you able to pin documents in your Zunes?
I'm going to move on from that question.
You need to admit that you still use yours, don't you?
I don't think that was asked with respect, because yes, I am still an active Zune user. So yeah.
Well, we'll see if I lose this tip because I was mean, whether or not that actually comes into play here.
I'm crying on the inside, Tom, if that helps my case.
Oh.
Right. All right, that's it.
Great. IT people can share screens. Yay. So the tip that I'm going to talk about as my first one is decluttering your Microsoft Teams list of workspaces. So on your left side navigation, if you're using Teams with any frequency within your organization, pretty soon you find that you've just got a mess of Teams out there. Some of them that you use quite frequently, other ones you've used them once or twice and you've never been back out to them. So recently when I had signed in, what happened was I got this little blue box showing up that says, hey, we moved one of your team sites to the hidden teams section. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. So I went ahead, clicked, got it, and then if my screen goes to the next, there we go. So I went in and expanded the hidden teams, and I saw where I had a number of teams that were out there, and specifically the one that it found that I hadn't used recently, which is kind of a test team for me, was this one. I thought, well, that's really cool. So it's keeping my active stuff that I have on display less cluttered in terms of trying to figure out where it's at or having it slip to the bottom where I have to scroll through those. So when it moves it to hidden, what you can do if it's like, I know I haven't seen it in a while, but I really do want that to show up, if you click on the ellipsis icon to the right of the name of the team that you're working on, you can go ahead and click show. What show does is show puts it back in your teams area, removes it from the hidden teams, so now it's front and center back in your attention again until you don't use it again for a while and it sticks it back in hidden teams again. But I think this is really nice because it treats your attention as a commodity that you want to guard, and it enables you to automatically clean up things and only see the things that are relevant to you because you've been using them on a regular basis.
All right, well, let's jump to the poll. Everybody now has access to that. So this is actually kind of we have two different navigation related.
That's true.
So
I don't think we've hit navigation things together before, but.
All right. So that was close, 53 to 47%.
With the winner being?
Me.
I thought so. Yeah. I'm okay with that one.
They're both. I'm not surprised that it was pretty close though. So
cool. Excellent. So starting off on round two, giving people praise in Microsoft Teams. You'll see a Teams theme going on here. So in Teams, they have a new feature that rolled out probably like within the last month or so, and it's called praise. And you know, a lot of times when you talk about IT people getting praise or these kind of features, they're kind of like, really? But if you're in an organization that's larger, you've got frontline staff, the whole bit, this is a really nice way to be able to call out something that somebody did and make note of it in a chat or a channel that will allow other people to know that, hey, this other person did something above and beyond. So in this particular case, I'm in a chat with my two coworkers, and I went ahead and clicked the ellipsis at the bottom of the screen, and it gives me some options, one of which is the new praise option. So I go ahead and click that. It comes up and says, what kind of badge do you want? Now, this is not a case where you say, we don't need no stinking badges. You're going to have a badge to do this. But they've got ones that make sense in terms of what you want to point out. Is somebody really good at leading? Is it a thank you to somebody? Did somebody fix something, solve a problem for you? You've got a number of badges here that you can select from, which makes it a little bit more personal and kind of targets what it is that they are being called out for. So when you click the badge, in this case I did problem solver, you go ahead, you've got an optional note where you get to type whatever it is that the person did that you want to recognize them for. You click the name and you can have multiple people that you want to recognize for this. In this case, I just put T, our admin teammate here, put that in there and then click preview, which allows me to see what it's going to look like when it actually hits the chat or the channel. So I look at this, problem solver. I like the message. I didn't misspell anything, I hope. And then when I click send, it goes ahead and actually puts it out there like this. So you see the praise header, badge sitting there, who it went to, who did the recognizing, and the quick write-up. This is something that is really quick, takes no overhead whatsoever, and especially if you're in an active group channel, so let's say that your department of like 30 or 40 people are all in the general channel of one of your workspaces, being able to call out, hey, so-and-so did something really cool. It's a nice way to make sure that people know that cool things are happening, people are going above and beyond, and this is a nice way to put it out there.
All right. So my tip is creating, there's kind of two in this one. It's creating parent-child documents within Word. And it's something that it's been around for many years, but they've added some nuances to this capability. So we've talked about and shared some tips around some of the new research capability, some of the ability to go in and to insert pages or slides within a presentation that you're working on. But sometimes you're working on a massive document, and so I don't know how other people work on really large documents, but what I'll often do is I'll break something up into chapters or sections, just to make especially if there's a lot of graphics, to make it more manageable, because Word is not really a publishing platform. There's a reason why professionals go and use other much more robust and powerful tools when they're typesetting a book, for example. But for the rest of us that aren't doing quite a book but need to go in and get ourselves more organized, there is a way to break the massive files up. And so what you do is you have and I've just got this sample. This isn't a massive file, but for an example, this is an ebook that I've just about have done with my friend, good friend Chris Cannon, where you can go into view at the top there and go into you can see you're automatically by default in the print layout, and right over to the right of that you have the outline view. So if you click on the outline view, it'll look like this. And so this, of course, if you've got all of your text, if you're using the headers that are out of the box within Word, then you'll see this outline breakdown. Now, the tip within a tip here is that now if you're writing something and you want to reorganize the content, you can actually go into this outline view and grab, you see the little plus mark there by that first section. You can actually grab that, drag it down, and let's say it was a page and a half of content, and drag it down 2/3 down in the document. It'll reorganize that. They just need to refresh your table of contents. So you have just a quick and easy way that you can go in and work with the stock. But what I'm going to show you, so essentially you could go in and by selecting the outline view and show document right there, top center. So show the document. And after with that selected section, it then creates this separate asset that you can work with inside of that Word doc. And what's nice then is that you can collapse the subdocuments to make it easier to scan through, or you can insert new content. So if you are writing in multiple Word docs and say, hey, there's this section or there's this document that I wrote, and this is perfect within this section, or if you're quoting somebody, you can then just go and insert that content, and it drops it into, and here I used, Tom, what our top tips that we used as we were organizing our presentation in Las Vegas, but drop that content into that flow, and then of course collapse those sections so that you can quickly again drag and drop the different pieces around. So it's just Microsoft has figured out that there needs to be this happy in between. There's doing the desktop editing of a Word doc, of a letter, and then there's the desktop publishing, the formal publishing activity. There needed to be something in between for those of us that are working on something that's, say, 30, 40 pages long with 50 different graphics or tables within it, that Word just gets to be kind of burdensome. And especially if you need to rearrange sections or insert other content and deal with formatting. And that's where this outline view just becomes incredibly powerful.
Interesting concept. I had never heard, quote unquote, parent-child documents in Word. And I could see how something like this, especially yourself, where you write, larger white papers and stuff like that, where this could really help you, segment up your content and organize it in a much easier fashion for you to do your writing.
There have been other applications. Going back, and let me open up the poll here as well. We're chatting here. So going back quite a few years, in fact, back in the late 90s, there were a couple publishing applications that allowed this, which people are probably familiar with, like the merge documents capability. And so if you are working on different versions of that document, you're breaking that up. Maybe you're making assignments to sections to different people within your team, and you can then go and merge those versions together. And so that's been out there for a long time as well. But this is something where, even within that larger document, it's different than that merging capability.
Right.
Of course, a lot of that merging capability, it's become kind of a moot point now that we can collaboratively work on the same file.
Good point.
But there are options that are out there. All right, with that, Tom, you've got this one, 62% of the votes.
Yay, praise.
All right, let me jump to, there we go. If it'll move forward, there we go. Tom won that round. Round 3, hopefully my slide shows up.
Yes, it
All right.
does.
So this one, again, is an oldie but good.
I love your bullet point there, Christian.
I know. The heat of the moments. But yes, I think everybody understands this, the need for this. Personally, I have, when I've been in the enterprise environment, this has saved me quite a few times. There are some people that, like, you could put a rule in, like I'm using this example, like, let's say give 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, so that you could hit send. It's in the queue. It's going to go out. But then you always think it's inevitable, by hitting send, something triggers within the brain that makes you think, oh crap, I forgot to mention that. It happens. It's like when you're talking to somebody and you can't remember something and an important fact in that discussion. And so you're like, oh, I'll have to come back to it. And 5 minutes later, you're talking about something unrelated, and it comes to you and you shout it out, and it's unrelated in context. It confuses them, and they think you're crazy. Happens all the time. Well, that's what this is. It allows you to go in and set that rule. There's another great, just remembered this idea too, is that there are some people who, I think it's a great policy to say, after 5 p.m. on Friday, delay any work-related emails to go out until Monday morning. And so that you're not, setting up this barrage of things over the weekend, but you're queuing things to go up when the workday begins again. Somebody told me that years ago that they had that rule set. I thought, well, that's brilliant. It doesn't really fit my style, but that's great that they had that rule. So it's really simple. Just go into, as you saw that last build there, into your manage rules and alerts. And so if you click on that new rule there at the top of the box, and at the first screen, go all the way down to the bottom. So start from a blank note, apply the rule on messages that I send. And the next window, you've got all these different options that you can set, but we're just going to skip by those and go to the next one, which is at the bottom is defer delivery by, and then set the number of minutes that you want to delay that. And so it's just, It's just that simple to go in there and do, so that you can defer that and hopefully, save yourself some frustration of sending out an email that you forgot something, or in the heat of the moment you responded in a slightly too negative,
snarky manner.
yeah. I know it never happens to you, Tom, but to some of us, normal.
Yeah, I've probably done that a little bit more lately than I probably should have. But yeah, this is cool. I mean, as close as I've come to this was the one where you could send scheduled emails, but that you kind of have to be, in Outlook for that to trigger. So if you say, hey, I want this to send at Saturday at noon, and you happen to have Outlook closed down, nothing happens. Well, this actually makes more sense, because if you're sending something and you're deferring by 2 or 3 minutes to give you that moment of, did I really want to send that? You're probably still going to be in Outlook at that time. So
Right.
This works really well. I like it.
All right, Tom, over to you.
The one that I'm going to be sharing next for round 3 is getting notified when you do a mass deletion in SharePoint Online or OneDrive. So this only works for SharePoint Online and OneDrive, but it takes care of that situation where somebody goes in and thinks they're cleaning up their stuff, when in reality, they're cleaning up the thing for everybody. So if you've done a mass deletion, this is a nice, not 100%, but at least a way to be notified before it becomes permanent and you can't get it back. So in this particular demo that I had set up, I have a test site out on SharePoint Online, had a test folder, got like 427 files in it. I just kept copying files until I got a really nice number out there. Then what happens is I go out and I'm going to delete it. Now, it tries really hard to make sure that you know what you're doing when you say delete. But hey, yeah, I want to delete it. I know what I'm doing, when in reality I may not. Well, what happens is, if you've deleted a large number of files, and I'll talk about that phrase in just a second, Microsoft will send you an email that basically says, hey, you deleted a lot of files out there, dude. Is this really what you wanted to do? If it is, great, ignore it. You don't have to do anything. However, if you did this and you weren't aware of the implications, and this scares you to death, you can go back out to the recycle bin and restore them. So this makes it really easy to recover from potentially catastrophic mistakes, where you delete something, nobody notices it for like 45, 90 days, whatever. It's not in the recycle bin anymore. It's not backed up anywhere you can get it. It's gone, period. So the question becomes, what is a large number of files? And it depends. It's complicated. It says that notifications are sent to users when a higher than usual number of files are deleted per hour. They don't spell out what that number is, and it sounds like it's, for you, a deletion of 100 files may be normal and wouldn't trigger, but for me, who never deletes anything, 100 files may trigger it. This is not a fail-safe. This will prevent you from making any errors. You can always count on this, but it's a best effort in terms of trying to make sure that you didn't shoot yourself in the foot inadvertently. So you can't count on it. It can't be your first and only line of defense, but it is nice to know that if somebody goes out there and deletes something large, really large, they're probably going to get a notification and they'll have a chance to recover before things went bad. I had this happen actually one time when I had a synced library, synced locally with a document library in a SharePoint Online site. And I thought I was cleaning up just my synced version to get rid of everything. Well, when I deleted the synced version, however I did it, it actually deleted the documents out of the document library too. Something like this would have helped immensely. I happened to catch it on my own and I was able to go back out there and recover all the files. But something like this is a great way to avoid making that fatal mistake that everybody will be talking about for years to come. Hopefully you're still there to talk about it. Maybe you're not, who knows. So nice feature. And if it shows up in your inbox, definitely something that is worth paying attention to.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all of the alert type things of, are you sure? Are you sure?
Are you really, really sure?
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, this even goes back to when I was at Microsoft on what is now the Office 365 team, and some of the biggest complaints that we had from people was the fact that, when we said, hey, we're deleting stuff, we were deleting things. We're like, wait, I didn't mean it. Like, well, we prompted you twice. And all of that complaint, that was back in the SharePoint 2007 era. That beget the sandbox solutions came out of that time period, and all that frustration, as well as that delete box, being able to go back after the fact, even like giving you 24 hours to restore, all came out of that period.
Yep, cool stuff.
All right, so we are at the end there, and another win for me, another close one, 52-48.
Okay, so I better make sure that I win this one so it's not a wasted round at the very end.
Wasted round, come on.
Okay, proper case names in Excel. I've done a tip in the past where I talked about getting proper cased names in Word, which was very popular as a tip. But I did have one of my customers say, well, that's really great, but is there a way to get proper casing for names that I have in Excel? And so, not being an Excel guru, even though I do a lot of Excel tips, went out there and took a look, and there is actually a way that you can get there. So in this example spreadsheet that I have here, I've got a list of 6 names, all uppercase, and I would really like to get those in a normal, first and last name, capital letter at the beginning, but not all the way through. So if I go out there, what I can do is I can click in cell B1, and I use this, this function called proper, and I apply it to the cell A1. So in this case, it's going to proper case what I have in cell A1, and when I hit enter, it applies it, and I get a proper case name, which is awesome. And if I want to then apply it to the rest, I can just click the drag handle and pull it down, and it will apply that formula to each A version of the cell to show up in the B version of the cell. So just by dragging that formula down, I'm able to get the proper casing on all those particular names without having to go in and retype them. So very quick, very simple, but if you're trying to get a name list that looks a lot better than just all capitals because you don't want to be shouting at people, this is a good way to do it. And then you can copy this list of names and put it wherever you need to have it at that point.
Yeah, there are so many of these nuggets around Excel. We could probably do just an all Excel event.
I was looking to see if I had covered a particular tip for something that somebody had shared internally, and I kept thinking, God, have I done that one before? And I looked through, and I think since I've been doing this internally since 2015, I believe, there's been like 75 or so Excel tips out there. And I find that really ironic, being that I'll be the first one to admit I am really not good at Excel, really not good. But they just keep coming up, and they're tips that I can look at and go, hey, I can do that. So,
you know how you can grab, I'll talk to you, Tom. You know how you can grab an email and say, oh, here's an action I need to take. I'm going to drop it down into meetings, and it'll open up a meeting which I can set for myself as a reminder to work on this item later this afternoon.
Right.
Or create an item. Do you also then go and create tasks the same way?
Actually, I have started doing this probably like within the last month. So I also participate in the Office 365 Pulse roadmap weekly webcast with Jennifer Mason and Adam Oakes. And one of the things we do is we have to pay attention to Message Center and stuff like that. Well, a lot of times you'll see something in Message Center that says, hey, this is going to start rolling out in early July and should be rolled out worldwide by the end of August. The chances of me remembering it by the end of next week are slim and none.
Yeah.
So what I've started to do is in the Message Center, you can send yourself an email for that particular thing, and it has the text of everything.
Yep.
Then when that comes in, I open it, edit the email to put the subject line being what the actual thing is that they're rolling out. And then once I save it, I drag it down to my task area in Outlook. And if it said it's going to be ready by the end of September, I say it's due on September 30th or whatever the weekday is in there, and basically say, yeah, send me a reminder or pop up a reminder at 6 in the morning because I'm always on by then. And that way I will know when the new features should be rolled out, when they're going to be available, and I can then notify, my particular customers in the company, and I can go ahead and then potentially use that as a new tip.
So just for the record, Tom, so you can't count any of the time you were just talking against my time, since even though you just explained half of my tip, but thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for that great example, because I do the exact same thing. In fact, I just did it last night as I was going through and selecting the 5, and I set 2 of the ones that are in my holding pattern that I've been watching that are being rolled out, but are not yet on my tenant, so I couldn't demo. And so I pushed it back another couple of weeks to check back on some of those capabilities. Here's an example, though. So I took this email, I dropped it down to the tasks, down the check mark down at the bottom of Outlook, and it opens it up as a task. And so you see up top, so you see that there's a start date, the due date that you can assign to that, a percent completed, the status, the priority. I especially like going in and setting the reminders, so to check back in, and you can set up multiple reminders there. But this is something that not only does it then appear, what I don't have a screenshot here as of my to-do task list. So it actually goes back in Outlook. I can go to my tasks. So there's the icon down below. You see the blue because it's highlighted because that's where we are. So that one was correctly done. But looking at my tasks, there it is. So I can check against that list. But it, also within the to-do application on my phone, it now automatically updates with to-do. And so that was kind of a new. I didn't realize that it did that sync with to-do. I guess they're talking about it, but as I went in and looked at that, because I used the tasks for my desktop and setting up those reminders, but I didn't make the connection for some reason with my to-do app. Like I use my to-do app when I'm out and about on my phone. It's just a great like shopping list or things I have to accomplish in that day. But I've not been taking advantage of that sync between Outlook tasks. So now I'm going to start.
Yeah, I like I say, I find this a really nice way to allow myself to stay current with what the new features are, because if you're involved in any sort of technical management of Office 365, you know that things change fast and furious. And you may know that 2 months ago they were talking about a new feature, but you're not going to remember. At least I'm not going to remember. So by doing it like this, I will always get that reminder prompt, 2 months in the future, 3 months in the future, and I can completely and totally forget about it without guilt, knowing that I will be able to pick it back up at a later date because I left myself almost like a cookie.
It's these digital sticky notes, and and we have all these different ways of keeping notes. And I've got Post-it notes all over the place. I'm using To-Do. I'm using my calendar. I've got all these tracking methods. What I love that they are trying to integrate the task management across the various workloads. And so there's still work to be done. But think about that. If you're in Teams and using Planner, if you're using Outlook, if you're using Microsoft Project, all of these different things, if I'm creating tasks, I should have the ability to view the things that are assigned to me or that are requested of me or that I've set for myself across those different tools. So that if I'm out and about and I've got my mobile phone and I'm using To Do and I get prompted, oh, you know what, I was supposed to accomplish that work task, I need to update that in Microsoft Project. Like, it should have that link. It's me, it's the same login,
Right.
each of those. So why can't those things communicate? So that's where things are going.
Exactly.
All right, end the polling. Tom, you took that one, 56 to 44.
Okay, it all comes down to the final tip.
It does. All right.
Final countdown. Little Journey going on in the background here.
That's not Journey. Come on, that's Europe. Tom.
Oh, is it?
Sometimes I feel like you don't even know 80s hair metal.
That's probably a true statement, unfortunately. I forgot. I made that comment around somebody who is like a music aficionado. That was a really bad move on my part.
So here is one where somebody just asked me this. In fact, it was in like personal life. It's a family friend that said, hey, how do I go in there and make that switch? And I said, well, there's some caveats to this, but in email, lots of Outlook today, folks.
I saw that.
Email on the mind, Outlook on the mind. But again, within the Outlook options, so go into File and Options. In the General tab, you have, as you can see down there towards the bottom, the attachment options. Like by default, I have the ask me how I want to attach them every time because I don't want it to automatically attach or automatically provide a cloud link. Sometimes it's one or the other. And so I have that first option. But you can, by default, say, hey, always share them as links. You can always manually go in there and change that once you've gone and inserted that in. And you like my complex text on this one as well? Send links, not files, Tom.
Spam.
So I'm going to send this spam to Tom. But see, if I then click on that, so I've got that attached. You can see the cloud symbol there, so it's a link to that. And so if it's something that is local or if it's out on a server, just be aware that if you're sending it as a link, then it will upload that to OneDrive. Or if you have your content in OneDrive, so it just maintains that, but it will change the permissions accordingly to the people that you send that to. And of course, you can restrict that. You can restrict the permissions, the control, the access to that individual file down to that file level. But for this kind of sharing in an email, where it's just in my shared, it's open. You have to have a direct link to get to that file. I can share that out, but I can click on that drop down and actually instead download it and attachment as an actual attachment as well. So you have the ability to go back and forth. But this is just about quick and easy. The rule of thumb: always send links, just to get yourself into the habit, break those old habits, and change that setting. It's just a quick and easy way to make sure that you're working in the cloud, Tom.
One of our participants put a question out there saying, will this work okay if people are looking at their email via mobile?
So it's the same thing. It'll go in there and send as that link. So yes, Outlook doesn't differentiate between where you're consuming that. It will still have that link. Now, if it's a 250-page PDF document, it might, again, Microsoft is improving the readability of large files. And so it's only going to provide, it'll be like streaming a document to you so that you can open that in that mobile experience. But yeah, you can open that from the cloud anywhere. It would, potentially, if you're roaming, pull from the cellular. So just be aware of that when you're opening attachments.
True. Yeah. On this one, I have mine set much like you do on a regular basis to say, do you want to send the link or do you want to actually send the physical attachment? Because depending on who I'm sending it to and what the scenario is, I may actually want to send the attachment rather than just a link. but it's nice to know that you can go one way or the other as every time this is what's going to happen. So.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Tom, over to you.
And for the final tip of the final round, I am going to talk about copying a plan in Planner. So if you use Planner, Planner is a great lightweight project planning tool that is part of your Office 365 environment. And when you create a planner, it makes it really nice because you can go create your different buckets, create the different tasks under the buckets, assign those to people. They now integrate with, to-do and stuff like that, which is even nicer. But one of the questions when this first came out was, well, I want to create a plan or a template, a planner template, let's say, for the type of stuff I want to do. So I want to be able to have all my buckets, communication, site cleanup, migration, set right out of the box when I create a new one. How can I do that instead of having to go in there and set up all of them again every single time I set up a planner? So what you can do is I've got this planner out here that I call to do because I'm not terribly creative at times. And then what you do on the ellipsis after boards, charts, schedules, you have the ability now to do copy plan. And what that will do is it will actually take the plan as you have it right now, create a copy. You can say, is this going to be private? Is it going to be public to anybody? Set up the name of what you want that template to be. I'd probably like use to do template now in hindsight, but when I was setting this up to see, hey, does this work? I just, it comes out and says copy of, but you can change the name on it. And then it sits there and grinds away for a few seconds saying that it's copying that plan that you just said that you wanted to have as your template, says your plan is ready, and you'll see now that you've got a link that says go to, quote, copy of to do, which is the name of the new plan that you specified. So now I see it out in my favorites. That's my new plan. And whoops. And what it did is it created a brand new item, or brand new planner, I'm sorry, based on the planner that I selected that from. So what I would probably do is I would go out there and say, okay, I'm going to set up a planner that has all the basic features that I want, and I'm going to call it planner template, or project template or whatever. Then anytime I want to create a new to-do, or I'm sorry, gosh, it's too hot in here. I had to turn off my air conditioner. I can go out and say in that template, I want to create a new plan, give it the name, it's going to copy based on that template, and then I have my new plan with all that stuff preset. And you can just maintain that planner template to make sure it's always up to date with how you want new plans to be. And it's going to save you that time of having to go out there to a blank plan and set up everything individually. Again, it's one of those things that if it's just one or two buckets, it's probably not that big of a deal. But if you've really gotten into Planner and you have, a whole array of things that you want out there, certain tasks that are all in place, knowing that when you start, I want all these there, this is a great feature to enable you to use Planner with very little effort for rolling out new projects.
Very cool. I just kicked off the poll. I know we just have a few more minutes here. So have you guys moved entirely over to Planner, Tom?
Some people use it. We use it like a Kanban board, basically.
Yep.
For our tasks that we do within our department. And then we have like 3-week sprints that we track. And so those become some of the buckets. And then you can filter by name. And then we have time efforts involved and stuff like that. It doesn't replace MS Project by any stretch of the imagination. But if you don't need all that overhead and looking at a project plan makes your ears bleed or your eyes bleed,
right.
This is a lot easier to work with, a lot more intuitive.
All right. Well, The poll is closed. It's another 52 to 48. Tom, I'm sorry. But let me grab back over. But it was a good hearty battle.
It was a very close battle. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, it was good. I think some great tips that were shared here. So, thanks everybody for voting. If I can forward the slide, there's the crown. Couple things to wrap up here, Tom. So we have set the date for the next one. We're gonna do a Monday. It's but it's the August altercation.
I like that one.
Yeah. So you can go out and register for that now. And of course, all of the recordings will be pushed out to YouTube. You can find our blogs here. I'm going to share one more thing as a final screen here. I'm
not going to like this, am I?
I'm going to, no, I just want to make people aware of this as well. So there's actually this out on my blog at buckleyplanet.com. Up in the top navigation, you see the productivity tips.
Oh, nice.
So you can actually get a list. So I keep this updated with links to all of the blogs, the videos, and all of the slides for all of our sessions. And this is where, from this link, where at the top of this, I'm going to add the Power BI powered searchable database of all of the tips.
Very cool.
But if you want to get that historical view, just go out to buckleyplanet.com at the top. And other than that, hopefully we'll see you in August for the next one.
Sounds good. I'll be there. Of course, I have to be, but I'll be there.
You don't have to be there, Tom.
I am not defaulting to let you win that way.
Well, thanks everybody for joining. And if you have any other follow-up questions, we'll have of course, the recordings out later today. And but just drop us some emails, and we're happy to provide some more detail on what we shared today. Thanks a lot.
Good. Bye, everyone.
Bye.